The medical station floated in the quiet space between star systems, a shining ring of silver and blue light against the endless dark. Ships from 100 worlds docked there every day, carrying traders, explorers, diplomats, and sometimes the wounded. It was known across the galaxy as a place of healing, where no species was turned away and no injury was considered too strange. Nurse Katari had worked there for many cycles. Her kind was known for calm minds and steady hands, and she took pride in her perfect record. She had treated creatures made of gas, beings with liquid blood, and even one traveler who existed partly in another dimension. Nothing surprised her anymore, or so she believed. That cycle, her shift began like any other. The lights in the medical bay glowed soft green, and the air hummed gently with life support systems. She reviewed her patient list, her many-faceted eyes scanning the floating screen in front of her. One name stood out. Human, the file read. Katari paused. She had heard of humans. Everyone on the station had. They were new to the wider galaxy, having only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Stories about them spread quickly. Some said they were fragile, others said they were reckless. Some claimed they came from a world so dangerous that most species would not survive a single day there. But Katari had never met one. She straightened her uniform and prepared the examination room. The bed adjusted itself to a neutral shape that could fit most known species. The scanning devices powered up, glowing softly as they calibrated. Moments later, the door slid open. The human stepped inside. He was taller than she expected, with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face that showed clear emotion. His skin was a warm shade, his hair dark and short. He wore a simple uniform with a small symbol on the chest that marked him as a space explorer. "Hello," he said, smiling in a relaxed way. "I'm Lieutenant Aaron Hale. I was told I needed a routine check." Katari dipped her head in a polite greeting. "Welcome to the medical bay." "I am Nurse Katari. Please take a seat on the examination platform." Aaron looked around with clear interest, his eyes moving over the strange tools and glowing walls. "This place is amazing," he said. "Way better than the med rooms back home." Katari did not respond to the comment, but she noted his tone. Calm, curious, not afraid. He sat on the bed, swinging his legs slightly as he waited. Katari activated the first scanner. A beam of soft light passed over his body, reading his vital signs and internal systems. She watched the data appear on her screen. At first, everything seemed normal, heart rate steady, breathing even, muscle density higher than average for his size, but not alarming. Then the temperature reading appeared. Katari froze. The number blinked once, then again, as if the system itself did not believe what it was seeing. She adjusted the scanner and ran it again. The result was the same. Her skin, which normally glowed a calm blue, shifted to a brighter shade. It was an automatic response, a sign of surprise. She leaned closer to the screen, her eyes narrowing. "This must be an error," she said quietly. Aaron tilted his head. "Is something wrong?" Katari did not answer right away. She picked up a handheld device and stepped closer to him. "I will perform a manual temperature check," she said. She gently placed the device against the side of his neck. It beeped. The reading matched the scanner. Her glow brightened further, shifting into a soft, embarrassed color that her species showed when something unexpected happened. "This is highly unusual," she said. Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, I'm running hot?" "Yes," Katari replied, "extremely hot." By most known biological standards, this temperature should cause severe system failure. Aaron laughed softly. "Well, I promise I'm not about to collapse. This is normal for humans." Katari stared at him. Normal. She had treated beings who would shut down if the room temperature changed by even a few degrees. Others who needed special chambers just to survive standard station air. And here was a human, sitting comfortably, his body generating enough heat to trigger medical warnings. She tapped the screen again, pulling up comparative data. "Your homeworld," she said slowly. "What is its average surface temperature?" Aaron thought for a moment. "Depends where you are. Some places are freezing, some are burning hot. Weather can change fast." Katari's glow flickered. "Your species evolved on a world with extreme temperature shifts." "Yeah," Aaron said. "We kind of had to. It's part of life for us." She took a step back, looking at him with new eyes. The scan continued, revealing more strange details. His immune system was constantly active, like a small army always ready for battle. His muscles showed signs of frequent strain and repair, as if his body expected to be pushed beyond comfort on a regular basis. "You experience physical damage often?" she asked. Aaron shrugged. "We get hurt, we heal, then we move on." That simple statement stayed with her. Katari moved to the next part of the exam, checking reflexes, vision, and balance. Aaron followed her instructions easily, even making a game of it by trying to predict her tests before she gave them. "You're very relaxed for someone being examined by a stranger from another species," she noted. Aaron smiled. "Guess I trust that you know what you're doing, plus you don't seem like the kind of person who would hurt a patient." Her glow softened slightly at that. As the exam continued, other staff members passed by the door, drawn by the quiet buzz of interest spreading through the medical bay. A human was being scanned, and the readings were strange. One doctor, a tall being with 6 eyes and metallic skin, paused and looked at Katari's screen. "Is that accurate?" he asked. Katari nodded slowly. "I have checked it 3 times." The doctor let out a low sound of disbelief. "Remarkable." Aaron looked between them. "You guys talk about me like I'm a broken machine." "Not broken," Katari said. "Different, stronger in ways we did not expect." The word stronger made Aaron shift slightly. "We're not trying to scare anyone," he said. "We just survive the way we know how." An alert chimed softly on Katari's screen. The system flagged his temperature again, suggesting cooling measures. She dismissed it. "There is no need," she said. "He is stable." The exam finally reached its end. Katari saved the data and sent it to the station's central medical network. Almost immediately, she received multiple requests for access. Scientists, doctors, and researchers wanted to see the human's biology for themselves. Aaron stood from the bed and stretched. "So do I pass?" Katari nodded. "You are in excellent health. By our standards, you are exceptional," he grinned. "I'll take that as a compliment." As he turned to leave, Katari spoke again. "Lieutenant Hale," he paused. "Your species is still new to us," she said. "There is much we do not understand." Aaron met her gaze. "Same goes for us, but that's kind of the fun part, right? Meeting new people, learning how they live." Katari watched him walk out, the door sliding shut behind him. Her glow did not fade right away. She looked back at the screen, at the numbers that should not exist, at the biology that broke every safe limit she had ever learned. For the first time in many cycles, Nurse Katari felt something she had not expected when her shift began. Not concern, not fear, but deep, growing curiosity about the species that ran hot and smiled calmly, while the galaxy tried to figure them out. Outside the medical bay, Aaron walked down the long, bright hallway, unaware that he had just changed how an entire station, and soon an entire network of worlds, would see humanity. And somewhere deep in the station systems, his medical data continued to spread, carrying a simple, powerful message. Humans were not fragile. They were built to endure. The medical station did not sleep. Even as the artificial lights dimmed to mimic night cycles for species that needed rest, the soft hum of machines and distant footsteps never truly stopped. News traveled fast through its wide halls and floating data networks, and by the time Nurse Katari began her next shift, everyone seemed to know about the human who ran hotter than any known life form. She tried to focus on her work, reviewing patient logs and supply levels, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Lieutenant Aaron Hale and the strange numbers on her screen. Curiosity, once sparked, did not fade easily. A quiet chime echoed through the medical bay. An internal message appeared in front of her eyes. "Request, follow-up observation on human subject, voluntary participation approved." Katari hesitated only a moment before accepting. Minutes later, the door slid open again and Aaron walked in, looking just as relaxed as before. This time, he carried a small container of food which released a warm, pleasant smell into the room. "Hope you don't mind," he said. "They told me this might take a while." Katari tilted her head. "That is acceptable. You may eat if it does not interfere with the observation." He sat down on a nearby seat instead of the medical bed and opened the container. "So, I guess I'm a science project now?" "Only in the most respectful sense," she replied. He laughed quietly and took a bite. "Fair enough." Katari activated a passive scanner, one that did not require him to lie still. It tracked his vital signs as he moved, spoke, and even ate. The readings shifted in small, steady patterns, showing how his body adjusted to every action. "You do not appear stressed by the attention," she said. Aaron shrugged. "Back home, we're used to being studied. Space is big, and humans are still kind of new out here." People are curious, I get it. Tari considered that. Many species found it uncomfortable to be examined by outsiders. Humans, it seemed, accepted it as part of exploration. She watched as he finished his food and wiped his hands on a cloth. His body temperature rose slightly during the meal, then slowly settled back to its high baseline. Your body produces heat when you consume nutrients, she observed. Yeah, he said. Keeps us warm, gives us energy. Most species require external heat sources for warmth, she said. You generate your own. Guess we're like walking heaters, he replied with a grin. A group of medical staff gathered near the observation window. They spoke quietly among themselves, their eyes often drifting back to the human sitting calmly in the center of the room. One of them, Dr. Selrick, stepped forward. He was older, his movements slow but careful. Lieutenant Hale, he said, may I ask you a question? Sure, Aaron replied. What drives your species to leave your homeworld and explore a galaxy filled with unknown dangers? Aaron leaned back in his seat and thought for a moment. I don't think there's just one answer. Some of us are curious, some want to help. Some are running from something, but mostly we like to see what's out there. Selrix nodded slowly. Even when it could harm you? Aaron met his gaze. Especially then. The doctor exchanged a glance with Tari. The scanners picked up a small change in Aaron's heart rate. Not fear, excitement. Tari felt a strange pull in her chest, a feeling she did not often experience. It was not a medical response. It was something else. Throughout the day, she observed how Aaron interacted with others. A nervous young alien patient passed by, clearly anxious about an upcoming procedure. Aaron noticed and offered a few kind words, even a simple joke. The tension in the young one's posture eased almost immediately. Later, a maintenance worker struggled with a heavy equipment crate. Aaron stood up without hesitation and helped lift it, despite not being asked. His body temperature rose slightly with the effort, but he did not seem to notice. You do not conserve energy, Tari said later. You expend it freely, Aaron shrugged. If someone needs help and I can help, why wouldn't I? That answer stayed with her. Midway through the cycle, an announcement echoed through the station. A research team requested a formal biological presentation on human physiology. Tari found herself assigned to lead it. She stood in a wide hall filled with doctors, scientists, and representatives from many worlds. Aaron stood beside her, hands behind his back, looking slightly out of place but calm. Tari displayed holographic images of his internal systems, carefully explaining what they had observed. This species maintains a constant internal heat level far beyond known survival thresholds, she said. Their immune systems operate in a state of constant readiness. Their muscle fibers show repeated signs of strain and repair, suggesting frequent physical challenges. A voice from the crowd spoke up. Are they engineered? Aaron raised an eyebrow. Tari shook her head. No, this is natural evolution. A quiet murmur spread through the hall. Another question followed. Then what kind of world created them? Aaron stepped forward before Tari could answer. One with storms, cold nights, hot days, dangerous animals, and a lot of problems to solve. We didn't get strong because we wanted to be. We got strong because we had to be. Silence filled the hall. Tari watched the faces around her. Some showed awe, some showed uncertainty, a few showed concern. After the presentation, as the crowd dispersed, Aaron turned to Tari. Hope I didn't mess up your talk. You improved it, she said. They walked back through the station together. The long hallways glowed softly, reflecting off polished metal and glass. Do you ever get tired of being different? She asked. Aaron considered the question carefully. Sometimes. But being different is also what lets us do things others can't. I think that's worth it. Tari thought about that as they reached the medical bay. An alert suddenly flashed across her screen. Emergency signal. A ship had entered the outer docking zone, damaged and unstable. Its crew was suffering from exposure to extreme cold and radiation. Their life signs were weak. The medical bay sprang into action. Staff rushed to prepare emergency equipment and treatment rooms. Tari looked at the incoming data. The environment inside the damaged ship was far too cold for most species to survive. Aaron saw her expression. That bad? Yes, she said. Our rescue teams may not be able to enter safely. He didn't hesitate. Then I can, he said. Tari turned to him sharply. You are not trained for radiation rescue. I've trained in worse than cold and broken ships, he replied. And if I can help, I should. Her glow brightened this time not from surprise, but from something closer to concern. "This is dangerous," she said. He smiled, gentle but firm. "So is doing nothing." The station commander's voice echoed over the intercom, requesting volunteers with high environmental tolerance. Aaron stepped forward. Katari watched as he was fitted with protective gear, though much lighter than what others would need. His vital signs appeared on her screen, steady and strong. As he headed toward the airlock, he looked back at her. "Keep an eye on my numbers, okay?" "I will," she said softly. The doors sealed behind him and the rescue craft launched. Katari stood still, staring at the data feed as his signal moved through the cold, dark space toward the damaged ship. His temperature rose as he worked, his heart rate climbing with effort, but he kept going. Around her, the medical staff worked in tense silence. For the first time, Katari was not just observing a human. She was waiting for one to come back, and deep inside, she realized something had changed. The human was no longer just a strange species with unusual biology. He was a living example of something powerful, a being who walked into danger not because he was immune to it, but because he chose to face it anyway. The signal on her screen moved deeper into the damaged ship, and the entire station held its breath. The rescue craft drifted slowly through the cold darkness, its lights cutting thin lines across the broken shape of the damaged ship. The vessel looked like a wounded animal floating in space, parts of its outer shell torn open, metal twisted and frozen into sharp, silent shapes. Inside the medical station, Nurse Katari stood in front of a large screen, her many eyes fixed on the small, blinking signal that marked Lieutenant Aaron Hale's position. His body readings flowed beside it in soft, glowing lines. Temperature, high but stable. Heart rate, elevated. Breathing, steady. She released a slow breath. Around her, doctors and technicians worked quietly, preparing medical beds and emergency tools. The rescued crew would need immediate care if Aaron succeeded. On the rescue craft, Aaron floated toward the open breach of the damaged ship. His suit was thick and layered, but not as heavy as the ones used by most alien rescue teams. The human body could handle cold better than most, and the station had trusted that strange strength. He activated the magnetic grip on his boots and stepped onto the frozen metal surface. The cold hit him like a wall. Even through the suit, he felt it pulling at his heat, trying to steal it away. He moved forward anyway, slow and careful, each step measured. His breath echoed inside his helmet, loud in the quiet. "Entering vessel," he said into his communicator. Katari's voice came back instantly. "Signal is clear. Your vital signs are strong. Proceed with caution." Inside the damaged ship, the air was thin and sharp. Frost covered the walls and floor, turning everything into a pale, shining blue. Emergency lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows. Aaron moved down the corridor, following the signal of the trapped crew. The first survivor lay near a doorway, barely moving. Their skin was pale, their breathing shallow. Aaron knelt beside them and activated a portable heat pack, placing it gently against their chest. "Hey," he said softly, even though he didn't know if they could understand. "You're not alone, I've got you." The survivor's eyes fluttered open for a moment, then closed again. Aaron lifted them carefully, cradling them against his own body. His suit adjusted, directing more of his internal heat outward. He could feel the cold pulling harder now, his muscles tightening as his body worked to stay warm. Back at the station, Katari watched his temperature spike. "His heat output is increasing," one of the doctors said. "He is compensating for the cold," Katari replied. "His body is fighting the environment." She leaned closer to the screen, her glow soft but intense. Aaron carried the first survivor back to the rescue craft, securing them inside. He did not stop. He turned and went back into the ship. Each trip grew harder. The radiation levels rose deeper inside the vessel. His suit warned him with quiet beeps, but he pushed forward. His muscles burned. His breath came faster. His heart hammered in his chest. He found another crew member trapped under a fallen panel. Using all his strength, he lifted the heavy metal piece and pulled them free. His arms shook, but he did not let go. "Hang on," he whispered. The survivor was heavier than the first, and the walk back felt longer. His body temperature climbed again, sweat forming inside his helmet despite the cold. On the station, the room grew tense. "His heart rate is approaching dangerous levels," Selric said. Katari's hands tightened together. "He is still within his limits." "How do you know?" another doctor asked. "I do not," she admitted, "but he believes he is." Aaron made another trip and another. Each time he brought back a living being. Each time he went in again. His movements slowed, but his focus did not fade. The last survivor was deep in the ship, near the core where the damage was worst. The corridor was half collapsed, ice and metal blocking part of the path. Aaron squeezed through, his suit scraping against sharp edges. The radiation warning sounded louder now. He found the survivor lying against the wall, barely conscious. He knelt, his hands gentle even though his arms trembled. "I'm here," he said. "We're going to get you out." The survivor's eyes opened, weak but aware. When Aaron lifted them, pain shot through his back and legs. He nearly fell, but he caught himself against the wall. "Come on," he muttered to himself. "Just a little more." He took one step, then another. Every part of him screamed to stop. His temperature climbed again, pushing higher than Tari had ever seen. Alarms began to flash on her screen. "Lieutenant Hale," she said into the communicator, "your body is under extreme stress. You must return now." Aaron's breath came in short gasps. "One more," he replied, "just one more." The rescue craft's lights came into view down the corridor. He pushed forward. The last few steps felt endless. His vision blurred, the edges of his sight darkening, but he did not stop. He reached the craft and placed the survivor inside. The moment they were secured, his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, then forward, catching himself with his hands. His suit systems rushed to stabilize him, pumping cool air and medical support. Back at the station, the medical bay exploded into motion. "He's down," someone said. "The survivor is safe," Tari replied. "Bring him home." The rescue craft turned and launched back toward the station. Tari ran to the emergency bed, her heart beating fast in a way she had not felt in many cycles. The doors opened and the craft docked. Medical teams rushed forward, carefully lifting Aaron onto the bed. His face was pale, his breathing slow but steady. Tari took her place at his side, scanning him with shaking hands. His temperature was still high, but dropping. His heart rate slowed little by little. "He pushed far beyond normal limits," Selric said. Tari nodded. "But he is alive." They moved him into a recovery room, placing him under warm lights and monitoring his systems closely. Around them, the rescued crew were treated, their condition improving thanks to the human who had carried them out of the cold. Tari stood beside Aaron's bed, watching the gentle rise and fall of his chest. For a long time, he did not move. The station grew quiet again. Then slowly his eyes opened. He blinked, confused at first, then focused on the glowing shape beside him. "Hey," he said weakly. "Did it work?" Tari felt something in her chest loosen. "Yes," she said. "All of them survived." A tired smile spread across his face. "Good." He closed his eyes again, resting. Tari looked at the screen beside him, at the numbers that still broke every known limit, at the body that had walked into freezing darkness and come back with others in its arms. She turned and looked through the glass wall of the room. Outside in the hallway, members of many species stood watching quietly. Some bowed their heads. Some placed their hands or limbs against the glass in a gesture of respect. The human had changed something, not just how they were seen, but how courage itself was understood. Tari's glow softened into a warm, steady light. The station would remember this day. The day a being who ran hot in body and spirit walked into the cold and brought life back with him. The recovery room was quiet except for the soft sound of machines and the slow, steady rhythm of breathing. Lights above the bed glowed in a gentle white, warm and calm. Outside the large glass wall, the long hallway of the medical station stretched away, still filled with visitors who had come to see the human who had walked into the frozen ship and returned with lives in his arms. Lieutenant Aaron Hale lay still, resting. His face had color again and his breathing was strong. The lines on the monitor beside him moved in smooth, steady patterns. Nurse Tari stood at his side, her glow low and peaceful. She had not left the room since he was brought in. Other doctors came and went, checking his readings, running scans, and recording data, but Tari remained. She felt a strange connection to the human now. It was not part of her training. It was not something written in any medical guide. It was something personal. Aaron shifted slightly and opened his eyes. He blinked, adjusting to the light. "Still here?" he asked softly. Tari leaned closer. "I am," he smiled weakly. "Guess I'm not in trouble then." "On the contrary," she said, "you have caused a great deal of discussion." He raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dangerous." She allowed a small change in her glow, something close to humor. Your actions have reached the highest levels of the station's command and research councils. Aaron let out a quiet breath. I just did what anyone should do. Not everyone would, Katari replied. She pulled up a screen and showed him a message. It displayed the new classification entry that had been added to the station's central database. Species human. It is, he chuckled, then winced slightly and settled back into the bed. Figures. Over the next few cycles, Aaron recovered quickly. His strength returned faster than most of the doctors expected. He was soon able to sit up, then stand, then walk through the halls with only light support. Wherever he went, others noticed. Aliens of all shapes and sizes paused to look at him. Some nodded in respect. Some whispered to each other. A few approached and thanked him in their own languages and gestures. The rescued crew visited him one by one. One placed a hand on his shoulder. Another bowed deeply. One simply stood in silence, eyes shining with gratitude. Aaron accepted it all with quiet humility. It was nothing, he kept saying. Katari watched these moments from a distance, studying not just his body but his reactions. He did not seem to see himself as a hero. He saw himself as someone who had done what was needed. That, she realized, might be the most unusual thing about humans of all. One day, as Aaron and Katari walked slowly through a garden section of the station, filled with plants from many worlds, he stopped near a glowing tree with soft, floating leaves. This place is beautiful, he said. It is meant to remind visitors of their homeworlds, Katari replied. Aaron smiled. It does, just in a different way. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the gentle sound of water flowing through the garden's channels. Do you miss your home? Katari asked. Sometimes, he said, but I like being out here, makes the galaxy feel smaller, friendlier. She thought about that. To her, the galaxy had always felt vast and complex, full of unknowns that needed careful study. To him, it seemed like something to be connected. A message chimed on Katari's communicator. A formal gathering was being called in the central hall. The station's leaders wished to address the human. When they arrived, the hall was filled. Representatives from many species stood in wide circles, their colors, shapes, and movements creating a living pattern of diversity. Aaron stood beside Katari, feeling slightly out of place again. The station commander, a tall figure with a deep, steady voice, stepped forward. Lieutenant Aaron Hale, the commander said, you entered a place where most of us could not survive. You did so not for reward, not for recognition, but because others needed you. Aaron shifted his weight. I just did my job. Your job, the commander replied, has changed how this station and many beyond it see your species. The commander raised a small device. A symbol appeared in the air, glowing bright and clear. It was a new mark, one that would now be associated with humanity in the station's records. It represented warmth, connection, and strength. From this day forward, the commander said, humans will be recognized not only for their unusual biology, but for their willingness to stand where others cannot. You will be known as allies in the darkest and coldest places of the galaxy. The hall filled with a low sound of agreement, a shared gesture of respect from many worlds. Aaron felt his face grow warm, this time not from his body's natural heat, but from emotion. He looked at Katari. Her glow was bright, steady, and full. After the gathering, they walked back through the quiet halls. Guess I made things official, Aaron said. You did, Katari replied, but I believe it was inevitable. They stopped near a large window that looked out into space. Stars drifted past slowly, distant and endless. Do you think humans and the rest of the galaxy will get along? Aaron asked. Katari considered the question carefully. There will be challenges, she said, but there will also be understanding. Your species has already shown it is willing to bridge the space between others. He nodded. We're good at building bridges, even if we don't always know where they lead. Time passed. Aaron's assignment on the station came to an end. His ship was repaired and ready for departure. The docking bay was busy, filled with the hum of engines and the movement of crews. Katari stood with him near the airlock. You will continue exploring, she said. That's the plan, he replied. There's a lot of galaxy left to see. She hesitated, then spoke. Your presence here has left a lasting effect, not just in our systems, but in our thinking. He smiled. Glad to hear it. They stood in silence for a moment. Will we meet again? He asked. The galaxy is large, she said, but it is also more connected than it once was. I'll take that as a yes, he said. The airlock doors opened. Aaron stepped inside, then turned back. Take care of the station for me. Katari's glow softened. Take care of the galaxy. The doors closed and the ship pulled away, drifting into the field of stars. Katari watched until it was just a small light in the distance. Back in the medical bay, she returned to her work. New patients arrived. New problems needed solving. Life on the station continued, but something had changed. On screens and records across the network of worlds, the human species now carried a new reputation. They were not just travelers. They were not just survivors. They were the ones who brought warmth into cold places, who stepped forward when others stepped back, who turned danger into a chance to protect. And somewhere far out among the stars, a human ship moved forward, carrying that quiet, powerful message with it. That no matter how dark or cold the galaxy became, there would always be those who ran hot enough to light the way.